name is Greg McGovern.
Oh.
All right.
Okay, that came in much later than I thought.
Try that again. My name is Greg McGovern. I'm the executive director of the Pressure Players, and I am the director of A Family Tree. I'm beyond grateful to be able to work on this project. With the words written by Cris, Blak. I mean, this play is just, it's so great. You know, from the moment I read it, I knew I wanted to be involved in it one way or another. The cast we have is fantastic. You're going to see a small snippet of the play tonight with 4 wonderful actors. We're going to be reading the first 2 scenes. They've been working very hard, and I think it's going to show tonight. And we still have like 5 more weeks of rehearsal left. So just wait until you purchase the actual project in late November. It's going to blow your socks off. Thanks.
Okay, so in this order on my screen, if we can, just to save everybody the tech issue, we are going to hear from Jay, then from Tina, then from Cris, then from Thomas, then from Lucia. Cool? Thank you, guys.
Hi, I'm Jay Sada. I am going to be reading the role of Max, and I could not be prouder to be reading these words. They're amazing, and to share today the screen with my fellow actors is an incredible blessing and a gift, and I hope you all enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Tina Barone. I'm going to be reading the role of Rebecca, the middle daughter. And I am really excited about working in this medium with the Pressure Players and with my fellow castmates. I really think you're going to enjoy it.
I am Cris Eli Blak. I wrote the play. I am so happy to see, both to share it with a few of you. The select scenes, the Pressure Players have done an amazing job with this show. They've assembled an amazing cast. You know, I think that theater is a lot like architecture in the sense that all I do is the blueprint. I just make the blueprint, and then I hand it off to these amazing people, and they construct the thing and they build it and make it into a beautiful monument that will hopefully outlive us all. And so I'm just so proud of all these people. I'm so happy that Greg and Jim and Danny saw something in this show and then gave it to these amazing actors who are going to propel it to a whole new level. So I'm just happy.
Hi, I'm Tom Riley. First I want to say thank you so much to Danny, Greg, Jim, to Cris for involving me in this project. I'm one of the original performers in the Pressure Players. I was actually in the Dawn of the Great Panic with Danny and Greg and Jim, and it was honestly an amazing experience, and I'm very happy to be involved again. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lucia Williams. I'm reading the role of Paula, and I am just extremely grateful to be a part of this production. And yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting. And thank you, because I'll just ramble and I don't know what to say, but I'm just extremely grateful. Thank you.
Okay, and on that note, I'm going to ask everyone who is not reading tonight as we begin scene 1 to shut off their cameras, make sure your microphone is on mute. Again, I will be so happy to see your faces and invite you back for the Q&A. And with that, thank you. Thank you again for being the first collection of ears to ever hear this work.
The sound of a record player. An Italian opera tunes in, loud foreign singing accompanied by the familiar scratch that comes with a record that has been played too often.
Somewhere there is a house. And in that house there are pictures of the past lined along walls and corridors. In that house there was once a family, smiling faces on a Christmas card, dozens of first days of school, arguments, and hundreds of dinners. Now the table is empty, except for 2. There is no family. There are only the 2 who started the home, a man and a woman. A man named Max and a woman named Paula. This is the story of that house, of that home. The seed has been planted.
We could hear Max singing along, his once heavy foot tapping to the music. The door opens and Paula enters.
You are supposed to be in bed.
Just a moment. Listen.
You're going to wear yourself out.
There's something about this kind of music that you can't understand. Melodies without translation. It gives you a chance to really listen as opposed to, I don't know, trying to memorize or comprehend. My father used to play opera music throughout the day.
As you told me plenty of times.
He would keep it on when playing chess. I would ask constantly if he knew what they were saying, if he even knew what they were talking about. He never could tell me exactly what they were saying, but he could always recite the story. He would tell me that it doesn't matter what's being said, that the emotion in the music will tell you precisely what is happening. The highs, the lows, the love, the pain. It's all there if you close your eyes and listen to their tears.
I will admit, I've always loved that one. But that doesn't mean you should be up. The doctor made it clear that you must stay in bed and rest if you want to get any better.
Max doesn't respond. He lets the music end before lifting the needle from the record.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
I feel like you're deflecting.
I feel like I'm asking a question.
You are stubborn. At least drink your tea.
Who is your favorite artist?
I don't have one.
Everybody has one.
In that case, I suppose I'm not everybody.
When you look at a piece of art, what do you notice first? The artist's name signed in the smallest writing in the bottom corner of the canvas, or the whole picture? Does it matter? What I mean is that if you were to see the Mona Lisa without knowing who Da Vinci was, would you still believe it to be a genius work of art, or would it be nothing more than a rather plain-looking woman who may or may not be smiling?
That's your question.
I thought it was a good question.
I'm not saying it wasn't. I just don't understand why you had to ask it.
Because I'm afraid that my time is near, love.
What are you talking about?
My thoughts are gone. They don't match up anymore, and the only explanation I can think of is that it's giving up on me. My own mind betraying my trust. And I don't think a good night's sleep will bring it back.
You are tired.
No. I'm hungry, and I'm sore. Look, the thoughts in my head are meshed together so much so at this point that I can't even understand it, such as with an opera in a different language. And unfortunately for me, I've come to the conclusion that my name will mean nothing 10 minutes after I'm gone.
That's absurd.
Most true things are.
You have plenty of friends. You have me, the children.
Yes, friends who are the same age as me and very near being in the same condition. They will be gone soon enough, as will you. And the children will move on with families of their own, and I will be nothing more than a face on a picture in a closed scrapbook.
You scare me when you talk like that.
I am sorry. I just want to share how I feel. What if tonight is the end? What if this is our last conversation? I'd rather you know how I feel about such things.
You are contradicting yourself a bit, aren't you?
How so?
You say you'll be nothing more than a face in a scrapbook when you're gone because people will move on and forget.
Well, it's what happens.
Yet, you remember everything about your father and his records and chess.
My father died at 90 years old. There was a lot to remember, and by the time it happened, I was already married and a father. I had moved on.
And that's perfectly fine. But from here on out, if it is something like that, please find a journal and write it down. I am aware we are on borrowed time here, but that doesn't make it any easier to deal with, Max. I am your wife. I have been for 30 years, meaning I wouldn't be lying if I said that I do not remember a life without you in it. And now that we're both getting to be a certain age, it only gets harder and colder. And yes, I will eventually go to, probably very soon after you. But I'd rather not drown in thoughts of what's yet to happen. So for now, if you don't mind, I want you to lie to me. If you're in pain, tell me you're okay. If you want to cry, tell me it's because you just finished your favorite film. Anything.
Very well.
What am I supposed to do? What do you want me to do?
I want you to let me go. I need you to. We need to have this conversation.
No, we don't. You want to have this conversation, but I don't. I can't. Everything will be fine. The children will help.
Well, the children are self-absorbed, and you know it.
They would do anything for you.
Yeah, with a reward.
They love you.
They love their homes and their careers, their cell phones, their pictures of dinners. Do you know the last time they called?
Which one?
Any of them.
I'm not sure.
Every day.
Oh, I expected something less.
And here is how each and every conversation goes. Hello, Pop. How you doing? Awful? Oh, okay. Did you see the post I made? Did I tell you the promotions, the concerts, the wedding plans? On and on and on. I could call them right this second and tell them that I was on the edge of literal death. And do you know what they'd say?
Max, please don't.
No. Go ahead. Give it a guess.
I won't.
Go on.
I won't play along with this any longer. I refuse.
Because you know the answer.
Refuse.
The first thing they would say, even if I were in between here and the afterlife, would be, oh, wait, don't go yet, please. Not until you finish writing the will.
That's ridiculous.
Well, you know I'm right.
They love you.
That doesn't mean they like me.
They have no reason not to.
You're too kind for your own good.
I know that our children are not deviants. They are good, smart, well-adjusted people.
You're only saying that because you're the one who raised them.
You are losing your mind. We raised them together.
No, I worked. You were home.
That doesn't mean you weren't their father.
Yeah, but only part-time. I had minimal influence on them.
You were there throughout their youth before you started working at the bank.
They were children then, 2 steps past being babies. Nothing was wrong. They were angels back then, not at all impressionable.
What are you trying to say?
I was working during their influential times, the teenage years when they become the people they're going to be for the rest of their lives. That was you.
You played a part.
How?
All of this?
I worked hard for all of this.
Why do you think you and I are the people we are? Perhaps we had good parents, but I suspect a lot of it had to do with the fact that we were poor.
Well, yeah,
Very poor.
we got by.
Our first 5 dates were taking walks in the park.
They were romantic.
They were free.
The best of both worlds.
But you wouldn't take a moment of that back, would you?
Never.
I might even say that you would want to keep those memories with you for as long as possible.
Of course.
Hear yourself, Max.
Tell me what life is. Define it for me. What it is, not what you want it to mean.
Life is, it's living.
That's not it.
What do you want me to say?
The definition.
I was the teacher, not you.
You taught second grade for a year. I hardly think that makes you Mr. Holland.
Life is living, it's being alive.
No. Life is feeling alive. It's enjoying the moments you are breathing your way through. It's being able to exhale without grabbing at your chest.
Life is a gift.
It's a privilege.
You can still walk, have conversation. You have an appetite. Do you want me to go?
I'm tired. I'm worn out. I just want to go to sleep now.
Okay.
Hey, don't forget me.
I couldn't if I tried.
She wipes her eyes and walks out. Max stands, shuffling his hands. He shakes.
It was June. I was supposed to be participating in an internship that summer, but the funding fell through, by which I mean they realized that my potential didn't match their price range. So I walked to a cafe. I didn't think much of it. I would do it with my pals every now and then, innocent enjoyment, but this day I was alone. I walk in, and sitting at the first table nearest to the door, there was the most beautiful woman. She had blonde hair that was originally brown, but there she was, reading a book. I figured I had nothing to lose. My education was already on the line. I might as well have my heart handed right back to me as well, make it a full day of rejection. That's how young minds think. I talked to her, sat right down across from her at the same table, and started a conversation about the book she was reading. It was one by Dickens, a classic. She loves the classics. I had never read it, but I sure pretended like I had. She clearly knew I was making it up as I went along, but didn't correct me. We talked that entire day, and at the end of it all, I paid for her coffee with my final few dollars, and I asked her out. We went to the park, one that was near the building I lived in at the time, and we just talked all day long. We talked about life. We talked about our lives. How it starts is how it ends.
He walks over to the record player.
My father fell in love with her right away. He knew she was good for me. She reminded him of my mother when they first met, that instant power of communication, the feeling that you want to work harder than you ever have before just to make sure she had everything she wants or needs. The day he met her is the first time I saw him smile, the first time he looked proud. The only other time I saw him close to anything like that is when he would sit down in his large leather chair and turn on a record.
He drops the needle back onto the track. It begins to spin. Italian opera music sounds again at its highest peak. The sound begins to sound more like wailing as Max conducts the music with his own hands. He moves around the room, suddenly more light on his feet, less shattered. It almost looks as if he is floating, His hands move all around as the aria climbs. He knows every change so well that he does not even have to wait to listen to what will come next. The record ends. Max returns to moving like his correct age. He slightly bends over, his hands grabbing at his knees. All we can hear is the scratching of the vinyl as the record continues to spin, just without saying anything. Other than that, the room is completely silent. Max slowly rises from his bent stance, his legs shaking.
So that's it, huh?
He looks to the record player in acceptance. He hobbles over and lifts the needle, freeing the now scratched record. He moves back to where he was standing before, then stops. He becomes completely frozen. Steadily, he looks up to the ceiling, or even further than that. Then out of nowhere, he lifts his right fist in victory. As he does, the lights lower, and we transition to scene 2.
The branches extend to 2 others. The 2 offspring who used to have a seat at the table in the home they no longer call home. Kids grow up and no longer look like they do in the school pictures. Jim, the oldest, and Rebecca, the middle daughter. They are not kids anymore.
The sound of fingers typing out a text message. The sound of a cup of coffee being sipped.
Can you please stop?
I'm handling business.
Can it wait?
It's important.
More important than our father's health.
You know what I meant.
I bet you're not even doing anything that's a priority. You're probably just playing a game.
Unlike some of us, I don't have time for games.
Was that against me?
I'm not playing a game.
Or what's such a pressing matter?
Is that rhetorical?
Not at all.
A couple of things. The studio's on me to find new talent, which would be fine. But every kid on every other street thinks that they're a star. And that just makes my life 12 times harder. Not to mention I have a wedding to plan.
I thought the bride usually handles those kinds of things.
Did you?
Yeah?
First or second marriage.
Oh, funny.
It's stressful.
Yes, I know.
And expensive.
Yes, I know.
It'd be easier if I had my inheritance.
Are you kidding me?
It was a joke.
A sick one?
You're too young to be a grouch.
Give me one moment.
All right.
Turn it over.
What's the difference? I'm listening to you.
You're listening to me, but you're looking at it.
Give me a break.
Flip it, Jim.
There.
Thank you.
Get on with it.
Mom called. He's not doing any better.
Meaning what? That he's going to get sicker? That won't even make it long enough to get to that point?
I suppose both are possible.
Then there's nothing we can do.
We need to talk about this.
There's not anything to talk about. We're not doctors. We don't have a magic cure. We can't make him better. It's not in our control.
But we can do something.
What? Pray?
Maybe.
We don't pray.
We can start.
You can start.
What are you going to do when he passes away? How are you going to feel?
So you're just trying to ease your own personal guilt, yeah? After he passes off, you want to be able to sleep at night and not feel like you weren't a good person, a decent daughter?
Don't patronize me.
A beat of tension. The specific, certain tension that only 2 siblings know about.
Moving on.
That's what I thought.
We need to talk about her.
We don't.
We do.
Why? She's not here.
She's our sister.
She's a heathen.
She's his daughter.
She's a troublemaker.
She's family.
You can call her. I don't have anything to say to her.
Don't you think this might be the time for forgiveness?
She doesn't belong to me. You don't choose your siblings. They come out the way that they come out. You can live with it, or you can be smart and leave the communication to 0.
You don't mean that.
I really mean it. She turned 18 and flew out the window and never came back. If she wanted to be a part of this family, she would be a part of this family. Simple.
You can't help yourself.
This whole act, it's cute.
What act?
The one where you pretend to be so noble, but you can't even say her name.
I could say her name.
Then say it.
Margot. Her name is Margot.
You can't even say it without looking like you want to throw up.
I said her name. Now we need to call her.
For her to tear us to pieces.
We'll never know if we don't reach out.
Be my guest.
Actually, my voice is a little bit hoarse at the moment. You're the man. Take some initiative.
Well, you sound sweeter.
Oh, you sound richer.
She always liked you more.
She never liked anyone.
You were the one ranting on about it, so make your move.
I'm worried about him.
Dad is strong.
Mom isn't. I'm not. God knows Margot isn't. Are you?
Of course I am.
Because you're a man.
I'm just not like the rest of you.
The rest of us women. Weren't you the kid who would freak out when sand got in between his toes?
I was a kid.
You were 12.
Would you rather me have been like Margot and set the house on fire?
It was a room.
Or you bringing...
Oh, wait, what did I do?
You got boys in your room twice when we were in school.
I got in plenty of trouble for that.
Not enough. You get a failing grade, and the worst you get is do better next time.
I'm just saying it's okay to be concerned.
Are you going to make a call? I thought not. Have a good day. You know, maybe I'm not concerned because him dying would mean that I wouldn't have to hear his criticisms.
Don't say things like that.
It's true. We both know it. How was it that I tried the hardest, and he was still the hardest on me? What sense does that make? I did everything he wanted to do, everything he expected.
He was being a father.
He was being a dictator, and that's when he was home. That's when he was sober.
You make it sound worse than it was.
Of course, it wasn't that bad for you. I was around for a little while before you came along. He was better adjusted by then.
So shouldn't he be commended for that?
He still wasn't there half the time.
He worked.
All my friends had working fathers, mothers too, but they never missed a memory.
They probably didn't live as well as us.
I'd rather have a present father than a rich one.
And I'd rather sleep at night without having to worry about where my next meal is coming from.
You're in denial, Rebecca.
Of what?
The man that you so desperately want to put on a pedestal.
Don't you think he's hurting enough without your words? Have a heart.
No. Play every sport, son. Get all the grades, son. Go to the best of the university, son. And I did. All of it. And he still couldn't have a normal conversation with me.
You need to bury whatever that is inside of you. I mean, look at you. You're successful, aren't you? The work paid off. Something he said must have been right.
I do what I love now. And the only reason that came to pass is because I was sick of doing everything for everyone else.
You never took care of anyone but yourself for your entire life. You and your dreams.
At least I had aspirations to do something with my life. What about you?
What about me?
You never chased anything for love. You want to talk about all the things we had, about how great Dad was, and that's fine. See the world how you want it. But don't you find it quite funny how you had such a great male role model, but ran after the lowest of guys your entire life?
He wasn't perfect, but neither are you. None of us ever were. He wasn't the best father, but nobody is, and I refuse to curse his name. If he dies, it'll be your fault.
Stand by. He's sick, Beck, and I think we all know what's killing him.
Sickness breaks down the body. Disrespectful offspring breaks down the heart.
You're smart. If only you could have used it for something other than picking up lowlives.
Are you finished?
Yeah. Wait.
Take it back, top of page 22.
Very good. He's sick, Beck. I think we all know what's killing him.
Sickness breaks down the body. Disrespectful offspring break down the heart.
You're smart. If only you could have used it for something other than picking up lowlifes.
Are you finished?
Yeah, I'm done. But let me tell you this. I'm going to get married soon, with or without him in attendance. And I'm going to love my wife and be there no matter what. And I'll never let the image of providing fog my senses. And I'll have kids too, loads of them, just to be able to show them that that's what it's really supposed to be like.
Yeah, you do that.
Jim exits. Rebecca returns to her seat. The lights dim again.
All right. Can I ask the actors, crew, and everyone involved in the making of this project to come to camera? Before we get to the talk back, in all of my excitement, I almost forgot, but I did not, to introduce our very, very important and wonderful co-host, Yelena from the Tanger Hillel, who have given us the Zoom link for tonight, who have given us many of you who came to listen. Yelena, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Yelena Azriel, the Assistant Director at Tinker Hillel. We're the Jewish student life on campus in Brooklyn College with a focus on community service and really building community in Brooklyn College and beyond. We're really excited to be able to partner with you, and well, we're hoping to provide space in person, but unfortunately, with the latest COVID developments, that wasn't possible. So we're really happy to see you here on Zoom and welcome you all. And so far, this has been an amazing read through. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. And we're looking forward to seeing you at other Hillel events. We have a lot of things lined up for, online programming, and wishing you the best of luck. You're doing amazing work.
Great. And also, really quick, thank you to all of you for bearing with us with the tech issue. These are things that are out of our control in today's theater reality. But at this point, I would like to invite everyone who's comfortable with coming to camera to come to camera so we can see the wonderful faces of our audience. If you have any questions, type them in the chat. You can also just ask him yourself, like if you don't feel like typing or if you don't have access to typing. First question from Lordy: where and when can you see the play? So the thing you've just heard is a radio play, actually. A baby. Okay, sorry. The thing you've just heard is a radio play, and it will be debuting in November around Thanksgiving, a family tree, a family holiday. We will be charging probably about the same as we did for Dawn of a Great Panic. The one thing you should know about us and our company going forward is that all the money goes back to the artist, so anything that doesn't is donated. Okay, first question for Cris. What was the inspiration behind the piece? Your writing is really incredible, and I can't wait for November. Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. I think that the inspiration for the piece came from my family. I think I come from what I would call a dinner table family. We have those conversations at dinner time and on family holidays, and I think that each character is, a little bit of myself and also a little bit of people that I know. I think that Max and Paula are definitely my grandparents. My grandfather is very just like the man, and he just doesn't say more than 3 things a day. But then my grandmother is just this like emotional ball, and she just has so much to say and so many things going on in her head. And I think that Jim and both the sisters, you only got to see one today, but there's 2 of them, are definitely me and my sister. I have an older sister who definitely has a middle child complex, and so that those relationships are very much like us in those conversations. And I think that also, it comes from, the central story of Max and his illness and stuff comes from, I had one aunt who was diagnosed with cancer when I was a senior in high school, and she passed away very soon after she was diagnosed with cancer, and she lived with us kind of the last couple months of her life. And that's kind of been my first and only experience with being that close to death, and really just kind of seeing it happen, and seeing not only the ramifications that that has on the person who is sick and the person who is dying, but the family around them. And so I thought, you know, we've seen the story of the sick person. What is going through the minds of the people around them? How are they changing? You know, where do they start and where do they end? And what does loss do to us? And what does family do to us? What happens when we're forced to be, you know, close to the people who are closest to us in blood and in genetics, but sometimes farthest away from us in relationships and personal connectivity. And so I wanted to focus on those things and really focus on what family means, because family isn't perfect. Family is flawed. Family is people you love and people you don't like. It's people you put on a smile for when you see them, but then talk about them in the group chat afterwards. So I just wanted to focus on those moments, those little moments, and yeah.
Okay, next question, jumping right ahead. Jay, this one's from Crystal. Did you go to personal experience to do your role?
Yes. My father was very much like Max. And I also had a sister named Margot, who was the rebel. And I was very much like Jim, in terms of I made it a point to not be like my father. So there was a lot of, when I read the script, there was a lot of stuff that it really brought up for me. And to be able to say the words as Max has been incredible for me. So it's the therapy that I don't have to pay for. So thanks.
Okay, next question from Brian. I think this might actually be a Greg question. Is the play being told in 2 periods or at the same time?
The play is at the same time. So it's pretty much, it's all it's in chronological order, the scenes, and it's during the same time period, which is pretty much now. I mean, it's something, it's so telling of just, you know, families, like Chris had mentioned, of families and just humanity, you know, the way people are, the way we interact with each other, and the way we interact with, you know, the ones that we love the most. Might not like the most all the time, but we love them the most. You could really take this story and plop it into any time period and it'll work. But for our purposes, this project takes place today, and it's all in the same time period. It doesn't go back and forth or anything like that. What you might be referring to is there's that monologue at the end of scene 1 from Max, and that's almost done like it's like an aside to the audience. You know, he's breaking the fourth wall. He's talking to the audience. His maladies have left him temporarily, and he's taking the audience sort of back in time by telling them about how he met his wife. So that's, I guess, somewhat time shifting, but the story takes place altogether in the current time.
Great. Orly, Cindy, not to put you on the spot, I just see you on camera. If anybody wants to just outright ask a question, feel free to unmute. Now is the time, as I'm waiting for a couple more to come in. Any questions?
Hello?
Hi, Vladimir. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. What's your question?
Yeah, this is not to anyone in particular, but I just, I feel like this is a very emotion-heavy script, and conveying those emotions seems very difficult to do over the screen. How do you guys get around to trying to get around that barrier without having an actual person to bounce off of?
Interesting. I just want to quickly speak from the perspective of a sound design. But Jim and I are sort of splitting the sound design of the show. And we're hoping, because this is a listening experience, that carries over. We'll be using, sounds of different density, right? So how heavy is the footstep of a man who is sick? And like questions like that is where we're coming from design-wise. Tom, Tina, you raised your hand.
To answer that question, where you, I guess, find yourself within the script as far as doing it just solely through voice, I find it's a lot easier to find an emotional ground with a character doing it solely through your voice, because I find it to be a form of meditation, personally. I find that you can connect much more closely to the person within yourself rather than the action that you're trying to reproduce, and you concentrate rather on intention.
I'll speak to that. I think it forces you to listen. So much so that people often say, and I'm a teacher, so I think I can speak from a little bit of experience. Oftentimes we are listening to respond, right? And we're not really taking in what the other person is saying. We're just listening so that we could say the next thing that comes to our mind. And having been in a show before that, it was on stage, but I had worked with another scene partner that we weren't allowed to look at one another for the entire first scene. He was in one section and I was in another, and it forces you, especially in like this digital age, to really listen. Like, I really have to listen to Tom and how he perceives things and how that makes me react to him. So I think it really is an active listening kind of thing. And when you actively listen, especially in these circumstances, it drudges up a lot of stuff. Like, and there's a lot of quick transitions. Like, I go from being pissed off to like crying about my dad in like a second flat in most of these scenes, not just this one. And so I think the role of active listening has really helped bring up those emotions that you need to like get through a piece of this nature.
Great. Any other? Go ahead, Cindy. Yeah.
So I have to go to a meeting in 7 minutes, so I'll get my question in. This is for Lucia. So you're playing a character that's much older than you, that's been married for 30 years, that is now watching her husband get sick and die. And I guess my question is like, how did you get in touch with that? Like, I mean, that's hard. What did you do to tap into that emotional place?
Well, from the training that I received, we use a lot of our imagination. So not even I know what it's like to lose someone. I was young, but still but also just throughout life, like, how do I feel? How does that feel for me? I also had to be clear about how I felt about things. So when I am, breaking down the script and going through, like, how does that make me feel? And then also not having those experiences of having a husband, let's say, and having a family, but just connecting to the general theme, which is love, and how would I feel about losing someone close to me? And how do you speak to people you love? I mean, yes, so just like that, just connecting in those ways. And then my imagination, just in terms of getting me to where I begin.
Great. Question from anonymous question, for Greg. Greg, what's been your experience directing a Zoom play? Or, I'm sorry, a radio piece over Zoom?
Well, I would love to say it's been challenging in this bit, but it's been these guys are so talented. They really are. It's been an absolute pleasure working with them. I would love to see this on its feet one day, which we will, but for now we have what we have. The challenges of directing a well, rehearsing over, virtually, there are a lot of things, that we take for granted when we see a play live on stage. There are a lot of quiet moments where nothing needs to ever be said. 90% of communication is nonverbal. We don't have that luxury in a radio play. If a character finds something enjoyable, laughable, we got to hear that. These are like little technical things that I'm finding. I'm learning myself too, because a lot of times while we're rehearsing, I'll sit there with my eyes closed. And if I hear like a little bit of a laugh, I'll direct them to kind of bump that up a little bit, because as the listener needs to hear it. We don't have a set. We'll have sound design and whatnot for sound effects, and obviously that beautiful opera song that you'll all hear when you listen to the finished product. But these actors, and they're doing a fantastic job of it, they need to be able to create this whole world in the listener's head. It's almost as if, like, I think one of the first days of rehearsal, I said, when you read a book, right, everybody has their own sort of imagination of what's going on in that book. We paint, the environment ourselves. We paint what the characters might look like ourselves. There might be descriptions in the actual book itself, but nobody's version of it's going to be exactly alike. And the better that we're able to flesh out the world of these people's lives for the listener, then we're doing our job. And that's been the challenge of directing a radio play. But as I said before, this cast is fantastic. They're phenomenal. They're rising to every single bar I set for them. And I think tonight was a perfect example of that. These people, these characters. If you can't relate to one of them, you certainly know one of them. There's several other characters in the play who you haven't met yet, but yeah, this is it's a wonderful piece, and I'm excited to see the final product too. I think it's gonna be great.
Really, really quickly, thank you for that question. Just want to say goodbye to those of you who need to leave early. I know there's a couple of you. Thank you for coming. Specifically, those of you from the Agents of Chaos, another budding upstart company. What? You can't see me?
No, I think we lost your sound for a moment.
Oh, okay. I was just shouting out the members of the Agents of Chaos who have to deck out early. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving your time. So don't feel bad. We see you and thank you. Okay. Anonymous question: who's Margot? So Margot is the youngest sister, and you're gonna have to buy the play to hear her voice, because she's played by a very talented woman called Maya Burke. Bye, Brian. Thank you for coming. Any other questions from the audience? Anything particularly interesting? One from Matilda. What about this play called you all to be involved in it? Ooh, spicy. I like it. Jim, you wanna take this one in terms of like why the company took this one on?
Absolutely. Thanks, Daniele. Well, one of the things that, and of course, as Cris had mentioned earlier when we were talking about the play, about an old friend always told me this, a friend I've been friends with for 40 years, that you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. And in family, we always have the people that we deal with, and we basically just try to smile and try not to talk to them too much, but we have to be cordial and everything else because we have those family members. And I'm always kind of attracted to pieces, especially about family, that are dealing with things that we don't always want to talk about. I mean, we're dealing with a man here that has come into a certain part of his life that he knows that he's not going to be here much longer. And what really attracted me to it for myself personally is that my dad, who I love and was a great man, he battled with alcoholism. And it was always the elephant in the room, and inevitably it killed him. He was a man of 67 who ended up by drinking too much. He was a very happy drunk. He was a Jackie Gleason type. But this particular play, even though it's not on that border, it attracted to me me to it because of the fact that you're dealing with a family. The man is dying. He knows he's dying. And he's trying in a lot of ways to make amends with his family, and he's trying to rationalize and also reason with everything. And I really love the writing of the play. I love the characters. And I really fell in love with the whole piece. I thought it was wonderfully written. And I love characters that are complicated. I don't like the simple stories. I like stories about families that are not always going to have a happy ending. They're not always going to be the ending that you thought it was going to be. You're dealing with tragic events. You're dealing with things that are inevitable. And I guess because I'm in my 50s now, you get to that certain part of life where you know that inevitably these things that are going to happen. And I was really impressed with all of the characters and the writing, and that's what made me really want to be part of this production.
Awesome. Just a correction about the Alliance of Creatives. So the Agents of Chaos is just the name of a group chat we have that happens to be by the same name. So the Alliance of Creatives is actually the name of the company that attended us prior, which is really funny because we.
Thanks for attending.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Does anyone else want to speak on Matilda's question, which I will remind us was what drew us to the play, essentially. We have to hear an actor speak.
I can actually say something on that. As I said before, there's a lot that I can identify with in this piece, but I think in reading the script, and Max goes through so many different emotions in a split second. You know, he's grumpy, he's grouchy, he's emotional, he's remembering, he's doing so many different things. So to be able to have that opportunity to do that, that was like something I was really, really attracted to, was to be able to have all those different emotions in 5 minutes, you know, which is in the first scene. He goes through so many different moments. So that's what really drew me to wanting to be a part of this, and creating this role is awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, go. Okay, let's have Tom and then Greg, and then if anyone else wants to.
Well, what attracted me to this play was the similarities between myself and Jim, and kind of the tumultuous relationship that I had with my father growing up, where we did bump heads a lot, being that we're both very strong-willed people who don't like anyone to tell us what to do. So, you know, that really brought me deeper into the character because it allowed me to incorporate myself into it. And I think that you played best what you can relate to.
Yeah, I think what drew me to this, you know, when Chris submitted this to the Pressure Players, we had an open submission call for writing for original work, which is what we're all about. You know, we create our own work, and we want, you know, sort of, you know, up and coming writers to be heard as well. When we read this, you know, I likened this to almost like a like an Arthur Miller piece. Really, the text is so good. It could be done on a stage with bare bones. It's just actors and conflict and emotions. Go. You don't need a big beautiful set. You don't need the flash pizzazz, you know, a musical number, you know. All I need to see is Max shuffling around in his slippers, you know. And that's it. You know, it's about, he's the everyman. And these are the family members. And I think every single family in America can relate to these people. So it's don't take this the wrong way, but it's the simplicity of it, but the execution of which it's done is superb. And that, I think, is why I likened it to an Arthur Miller. It's about regular people You know, it's about blue collar guy. It's about a family and their relationships, and that's why I loved it. It's so complex. It's so simple because it's human nature. It's humanity. There's no pomp and circumstance there. It's just people living. And that's it. And that's acting. That's the definition of acting. You know, living.
Tina, I see you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Greg.
So I just want to talk to a little bit about like having art and theater go on during a pandemic. Like, I am a theater teacher, and so like I was totally thrust into leaving my black box and thrown on Zoom, right? And how do we create art in this kind of tumultuous environment at this point? And so I've been dying to do something, and I've done the occasional online play reading and things like that. And when I saw that it was a radio play, I was like, perfect. I don't have to be filmed. I could speak. Great. So that's what initially drew me to like audition. Plus, I knew Greg was involved, and I knew Jim was involved, and I didn't know you yet, Danielle, but I just knew that like it was going to be a good experience. So that's what made me throw my hat in the ring, first off. And second of all, when I got the script and I read it, and I text Greg and I said, could you have picked someone who's more like me to play this part? I was like, I'm not a middle child. I'm actually the youngest. However, like, I think that idea of being lost and having a purpose, which is what Rebecca's trying to so desperately figure out for herself, is something we can all relate to and have been through in our lives in one way or another. And so Cris, you did a brilliant job making that come to life in the script for me as a person, which made it that much easier to relate to and connect to. That's all I have.
Awesome. Okay, any other spoken questions before I jump into this next incoming?
Oh, I was gonna piggyback. I was gonna.
No, oh, please, girl.
Oh no. For me, I just felt like it, like similar to what Greg was saying. It just felt real to me, and I'm still trying to find my way, being very new to this, and I feel like I was like led there, like just the way in which it all happened. It just seemed like I needed, I needed to be a part of this. I wanted to be a part of this. And then also getting the script, I was like, it just further confirmed that. I was like, oh, okay. Yes, this is where I want to be, what I want to do. Seeing that it's a radio play, it's like, oh, okay, that's also more of a challenge too, because it's being very intentional about what you're doing and getting it to come across, just because people are just hearing you. And it's just like, I don't know what else to say, just very beautifully written. And it just spoke to me, all the different characters. I'm just like, wow, like definitely can relate, can see different people that you know that you've met in your life, or that are a part of your family. And yeah, just the words, like they speak for themselves. It kind of like, I feel like when just reading through them, it just feels like you're in another place. Like it just sounds like a song to me. It's just like the highs and the lows. You just keep going and going and going. And I don't know, I'm just extremely grateful, and I just really love it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for speaking. Okay, last couple questions to, I think, wrap us up for the night, because we've been here and we respect your time. Let's have no more than 2 responders to the next couple questions, just because there are a bunch and I want to get through them all. So first question, how is preparing for a radio play different from your preparation as an actor? Any two.
A lot less physical torment. That's big. You don't hurt yourself like you would in a normal show. Yeah, that's big.
Okay, one more. Anybody? Don't make me call on you.
I think it's the same for me. I feel like I still prepared the same. I still went through the script. I still found my meanings, my actions. The only difference is not physically being on stage, but you still have to do the work behind that. So I just feel like this, just like the same.
Great.
There's something that I told them off the bat, you know, prepare for this as if you're preparing to walk on stage. Something, I'm not necessarily a follower of Stanislavski, but one thing that stuck with me is that he said, how could a board of wood possibly portray any emotion? So stretch.
Awesome. Okay, next question. I think this might be a Chris question. What's the different, like, what would you say? Okay, I'm gonna shorten your question, anonymous asker. What is essentially the difference between writing for radio and writing in general? Chris, I'm gonna.
Okay. So I mean, I don't think it's really a difference. I didn't write this for radio. I think that's one thing to say. And I didn't write it for these actors. You know, I kind of, I believe, told Danny and Greg and Jim this, that when I kind of first wrote it, it was kind of me getting my like British soap opera on. Like I did not think of American voices. I thought of like the old British actor like Michael Caine or some shit doing this. And it was like, it was envisioned to be on a stage kind of, because when I wrote it, it was kind of in that like Tiger King point in the pandemic when we were like, oh, this will be over by October. Weren't we right?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but
yeah. So yeah, it wasn't written for even these voices, and it definitely wasn't written for radio. But I think that what I do as a writer is I'm not very good at the whole setting the stage thing anyway. Like I'm not someone who writes things that are like, there's a tree on stage left and there's tall buildings in the back. You know, I'm much more concerned about the dialogue and much more concerned about the characters. And so when, you know, they were like, oh, it's going to be a radio play, at first it was kind of like, well, what does that mean? But then it was like, it was very easy to adapt, and it wasn't much to add or take out. It was just kind of, you know, really just basically keen in on the dialogue and the characters, and kind of adding the narration in there, which I think actually benefits the piece because it kind of shows a whole different layer to it. It really gave me a chance to develop what this tree is, this family tree, not only in the context of what we know a family tree to be, but as this kind of like physical manifestation of growth. And I really, you know, when I named it a family tree, you know, I was thinking of, you know, the poster you make in second grade where they're like, make your family tree, and all you know is your parents and grandparents, so it's very underwhelming. But then it was kind of like, oh no, I can really have fun with this. And, you know, the seed is planted that Max gets ill, and the rest of the family kind of has to grow from that and hold each other up. And so I think making it into a radio play gave it a whole new meaning. And it, like the actor said, it gave, you know, everyone a chance to really focus in on the words and the meaning and the communication.
Cool. Okay. This last question, I'm biased about because I'm the artistic director of the company, and Dawn of a Great Panic was a really important project for us. So I'm just going to pitch it to Greg because Greg is most directly involved with both projects. The question is, how is this piece different from our last one? I mean, albeit they're both very emotionally intense.
So Dawn of a Great Panic was written specifically for radio. I think while they're both excellent bodies of art, I think they're different bodies of art. Dawn of a Great Panic, I think, is more, I mean, it's an action. There's heartwarming moments in there, there's funny moments in there, but I think it's more of an action piece. I mean, if this was to be done, you know, I wouldn't, if it wasn't a radio play, I would see Dawn of a Great Panic on a screen somewhere, you know. It's an action piece. This, A Family Tree, I mean, this belongs on a stage. It's almost a sin that we have to do it as a radio play, but you know, lemonade out of lemons, right? And I hope we're making some pretty sweet lemonade. You know, with Dawn of a Great Panic, there was a lot that went into specifically writing it because like I said, because we knew it was going to be a radio play. With this, you know, the script was already there. There was just a few tweaks that had to be made. Cris added some beautiful narration to it. As far as, like I said earlier, with the, you know, directing the cast, little moments here and there, you know, things need to be just punched up a little bit to be heard. But otherwise, you know, the process is the same. You know, it's where we're creating something I said earlier too. We're creating an audio experience for the listener. And what that means to me is something I said earlier as well. You know, it's when they close their eyes, they can completely immerse themselves in the world of the story. In Dawn of Great Panic, maybe it's a little more action-packed and fast-paced and, you know, exciting and whatnot. Here, it's taken down a little bit. There's high moments. There's moments of intensity and intense conflict. But it's very real. And I think more so with A Family Tree, a listener closing their eyes might feel like they're actually in a theater, because in every scene you have two stellar actors just going at it, you know, and not necessarily going at it fighting. Sometimes yes, but other times no. Just beautiful performances. And I think that, not that Dawn of a Great Panic didn't have beautiful performances, but yeah, I think
tooting his own horn.
Yeah, I think Dawn of a Great Panic was more of a
Dawn of it, yeah.
It was a tongue-in-cheek sort of spoof on COVID that was done as a nod to War of the Worlds.
Yeah, I want to
This is a totally
say
different animal. Yeah.
I just want to tag on really quick. So in the essence of that show, that was done like week 12 of quarantine, and that was right before like the world exploded in terms of like coming aware of how much more inclusive they needed to be. And on that note, to answer this next anonymous question, no, we do not just do radio plays. Radio plays are what we are doing for now because of the pandemic. But we hope to be on stage in summer 2021, to be announced. And beyond that, if I know there's artists in the audience and theater companies in the audience. Hello, we see you. Thank you for coming. Yeah, if there's ideas and contributions or collaborations that you're particularly curious about, by all means, we want to hear from you as much as, you know, you would like to hear from us, I should hope to say. So yeah, if you have ideas, we have an email, we have social pages, just reach out. You could just shoot spit with us, and we'll see what happens. Guys, I think unless someone has another spoken question, that's all I really have. I think that's a really good finishing note for us. So I'm just gonna let this rock. Any spoken questions, guys? Yay, I love this part. Okay. Okay, good. Guys, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you so much for making time on a Tuesday night. You do not know how much it means to the company of the Pressure Players and the cast and everything that's like brought us to this point. We're just so grateful to finally have had an audience, this audience of 20 to 30 folks. You are the first ears to hear this play. And thank you for all your love. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions, if you have any ideas, if you have anything else of us, please find us online. We are at www.thepressureplayers.com or at The Pressure Players on Facebook and Instagram. It's spelled the way it sounds. There are no secrets. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.